295 AV 1069 FM. Broadcasting live from the ESPN Radio Winchester studios, diving headfirst into Florida's finest brand of nonsense. It's time for What the Florida Friday on Franklin County's favorite morning show. The starting lineup, fueled by Loco Coffee. And now for your hosts, Joe Abraham and Chewy.
And good morning. Welcome into the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester. I am Joe Abraham. And normally, this would be a What the Florida Friday. But today, with early voting underway and some very important local decisions in front of us, this is an early voting Friday. And I want to start this morning by talking about something that has become badly confused during this campaign. The difference between scrutiny and bias. Because asking a question is not an accusation. Requesting a public record is not a conviction. Looking into something is not the same as deciding beforehand what you are going to find. Scrutiny simply means that when somebody maybe asks the public for power, responsibility, taxpayer money, that we examine what they say and what they have done. And that's not unfair, that's not illegal. And a candidate campaigning on transparency and accountability should expect it. In fact, they should welcome it. Throughout this sheriff's campaign, I have been peppered with things that people want me to investigate. Apparently, I am now that guy. I've become that guy. You're that guy. And I'm not just talking about the sheriff's candidates either. I'm talking about other stuff. I get hit up every day. And most of those messages that I have gotten in regard to this sheriff's race, most of them have come from supporters of Charles Keller, former disgruntled sheriff's department employees for one reason or another, people who clearly wanted greater scrutiny placed on Tim Fuller and on his administration. And many times, it has been the same 2 or 3 subjects over and over again. I have looked into them. I have reviewed records. I have requested records. I have asked questions. And I have prioritized those stories as I have seen fit. If there's something worth talking about, I will talk about it. People come in here and they say, man, you got to talk for 2 hours every morning, 10 hours a week, and you got to be entertaining to do it. Believe me, I am desperate for stuff to talk about. At times. Sometimes we have fun. Ironically, though, only a handful of people sympathetic to the Fuller side have contacted me with things that they believe deserve scrutiny regarding Charles Keller or Troy Parsons Jr. And some of those questions actually originated in Huntland and Belvedere from people who live within that area. So this idea that scrutiny has only traveled in one direction throughout this campaign process is simply not accurate. There is also an impression being pushed that I have protected Tim Fuller or refused to challenge his administration, and that is not true. Sam Davidson, who sits in here on Fridays, most Fridays with us, there was a Friday where he walked in and, unbeknownst to him, stepped into a line of questioning for nearly an entire hour. Nearly his entire appearance, and he's not even the one running for sheriff. I questioned him about the administration, about things that had been done, if they had been looked into, why they hadn't, and raised issues with him directly regarding questions that were being asked. And I pushed him for explanations. I did not wave him through because he works for the sheriff's department and because he comes on every Friday. I have questioned the zero drug arrest statistic. Yes. I have examined employee positions. I have asked about spending. Are we spending wisely? Is this the best way of doing it? I have looked into claims regarding personnel, vehicles, department operations, chirps. Scrutiny of all of these candidates is fair. Scrutiny of Tim Fuller is fair. Scrutiny of his employees is fair. Scrutiny of Troy Parsons Jr. is fair. And scrutiny of Charles Keller is also fair. What I find remarkable is that some of the same people who have spent the last few months sending me allegation after allegation, question after question, suggestion about what I should investigate, now seem to be outraged that I submitted a public records request involving their candidate. Think about that. When the question is aimed at the incumbent, asking the question is accountability. But when the question is aimed at Charles Keller, asking the question, simply asking, becomes bias. It cannot work that way. Transparency cannot mean that we investigate everybody that one side criticizes, but not to examine that person, not to examine the other side. It does not flow one way. Accountability cannot mean that you demand records requests from one person, but then my motives are questioned if I ask them of the other. The same standard applies in every direction. So I contacted the town of Huntland and requested employment and payroll records concerning Charles Keller's position as police chief. Those are public records. Should not be a hard thing to get. I did not hack anything. I did not steal private personal documents. I did not announce a conclusion and then go searching for evidence to fit it. In fact, I didn't even bring it up. I asked for government records concerning a government employee who is asking voters to place him in charge of a much larger government agency than he currently sits over. And Tennessee public records law exists precisely so that citizens and journalists can examine government business with certain protected records excluded by the law. The request itself was not an attack. It was a question. But before I had received any of the information, before I had presented any analysis, before I had gone on the air and told listeners what I believed that the records meant or showed, Charles Keller publicly responded by accusing me and the station of drawing attention. They accused us of bias for asking the question. And I didn't watch really what he said. I watched enough to understand the message that he was trying to send voters. He was attacking the fact that I looked. Not the conclusion, because I had not reached one. I didn't know what I was going to find. And in my position, oftentimes, you get tips and you don't even know what you're looking for until you find it. It was not an allegation. I had not made one. He reacted to the question being asked. And that matters. Because when someone wants to lead, the scrutiny is inevitable. You will be questioned. You will be examined. Your decisions will be challenged. People will sometimes misunderstand what you did. Some questions will be fair. Some will be poorly informed. Some will come from people who don't like you. Some will come from people you thought you had a great relationship with. The question is not whether scrutiny occurs, it is simply how you respond to it. Do you answer directly? Do you provide documentation? Do you explain what the questioner may be missing? Do you say, hey, here are the records, here's the arrangement, this is why the numbers look this way, this is what's going on here? And asking the question does not deserve an immediate attack of the motive from the person asking. And that is not a small issue in a sheriff's race, in my mind anyway. Sheriff's office, that position will face scrutiny from commissioners, from reporters, from employees, attorneys, defendants, victims, taxpayers, the public. That is literally the job. They will scrutinize everything you do, every decision you make, every shred of evidence you turn up, and your entire office, regardless of whether or not you're the one that actually picked it up off the ground. The sheriff will receive public records requests. The sheriff will be asked why an arrest was made or why one was not. Why an employee was hired, why another was disciplined, why a vehicle was purchased, why money was spent, why a policy was changed. Leadership is not demonstrated only when people agree with you. Leadership is also revealed when somebody asks a question you do not like. Now, I am not pretending that I am without opinions. Everybody that listens know that I am full of them. I analyze things, I criticize decisions, and sometimes I reach conclusions that people do not like. There was a time during this campaign when I thought I might vote for Charles Keller. I liked parts of his message. I liked the idea of accountability. I liked the idea of examining spending and making employees perform. But when a candidate makes accountability the centerpiece of his campaign, examining his own record is not persecution. It is due diligence. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at Charles Keller's own statements, which he made in the debate, and we are going to look at the records provided by the town of Huntland, and we are going to explain what those records establish. We are also going to tell you what they do not establish. I am not going to claim that a payroll entry proves every minute he did or did not work. I am not going to allege that a crime was committed. I am not going to turn a legitimate question into something that records cannot support. But I am also not going to be intimidated out of asking questions merely because a candidate or campaign dislikes where those questions lead. Charles Keller has said that government employees should be accountable. He has said that leaders must be present. He has said that officers should be working. He has said that taxpayer dollars must be protected. Those are fair standards. Today we will apply them fairly, not only to Tim Fuller and his staff, not only to the employees Keller's campaign has criticized, but to Charles Keller himself, who is running for the office. Because scrutiny is not bias. Asking the question is not the offense. Sometimes the most revealing part of the story is how someone responds before the answer ever even arrives. This is early voting Friday on the starting lineup. And remember, you cannot campaign on transparency and then treat the act of looking as an attack. On the other side, we will begin with Charles Keller's own words. This is ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester.
No two patients are alike. High Point Health with Ascension St. Thomas delivers care centered around your health, your goals, your story, your recovery. From routine checkups to critical procedures, we use today's medical technology and advanced clinical practices to help you feel better, recover faster, and return home to the community you love. We don't just specialize in care, we specialize in you. Learn more at highpointhealthsystem.com.
Looking for your next great round of golf? Head to the Bear Trace at Tim's Ford in Winchester. This spectacular Jack Nicklaus-designed 18-hole course sits along scenic Tim's Ford Lake with rolling fairways, challenging greens, and lake views that highlight the natural beauty of Franklin County. Whether you're planning a weekly foursome, a company outing, or just sneaking around in, Bear Trace offers one of the best public golf experiences in the region. Book your tee time today at tnstateparks.com and play the Bear Trace at Tim's Ford.
Now, here's your ESPN Radio Winchester weather forecast. Brought to you by our official smile partner, Dr. Garrett Orr and Winchester Family Dentistry.
Starting off our morning with some fog at around 8 a.m. Otherwise, mostly sunny with a high of 88 degrees with our heat index values jumping up to 97 degrees today. We do have some showers and thunderstorms headed your way this afternoon with the chance of precipitation being 70%. So stay cool and dry while you stay tuned to ESPN Radio Winchester.
At ESPN Radio Winchester, we're proud to welcome Winchester Family Dentistry and Dr. Garrett Orr as our official smile partner. From routine cleanings and family dental care to helping you feel confident about your smile, Winchester Family Dentistry is committed to caring for patients with comfort, professionalism, and a hometown touch. Whether you're due for a checkup or looking for a dental team you can trust, call Dr. Garrett Orr and Winchester Family Dentistry, proud smile partner of ESPN Radio Winchester.
You're listening to the starting lineup, fueled by Loco Coffee, on ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio Winchester. I am Joe Abraham. Let's start with allowing Charles Keller to speak for himself.
I currently work as the manager for Woodall Grain, where I ensure budgets are followed and employees are held accountable. I'm a sheriff because I believe our sheriff's office should be run like a successful business. I want to maximize service to the citizens of Franklin County with the resources we have, provide our deputies with the training and equipment they need, and protect taxpayer dollars, reduce employee turnover, and build the best law enforcement agency in Middle Tennessee.
Okay. So that's just to get started here. Charles Keller presented his Woodall Grain management role as evidence of his qualifications and said that a successful business model would maximize service while protecting taxpayer money. That is the central promise of the Charles Keller campaign. That came from his opening statements. I am a businessman. I understand budgets. I hold employees accountable. And I will bring those principles to government. That is a completely legitimate campaign platform. But once you make your management record the reason that people should elect you, your management record becomes fair game. Let's play another one.
You got to be present. You got to be available to help. You can't be off doing other things in other places while your business is running.
I'll play that again.
You got to be present. You got to be available to help. You can't be off doing other things in other places while your business is running.
Those are not my words, folks. Those are not Tim Fuller's words. Those are not Troy Parsons Jr.'s words. Those are Charles Keller's words. It's not my standard. That is Charles Keller's standard. He said that good leadership means being present and that a leader cannot be off doing other things in other places while the business is running. That will become extremely important when we examine his employment arrangement here shortly.
And then the accountability, we got to make sure all of our officers are working. I mean, working from home is not acceptable in today's time in law enforcement. So we're going to make sure everybody's out here on the job and doing what you're supposed to do.
Again, a legitimate standard. Employees paid by taxpayers should perform the duties taxpayers are funding. Supervisors should know where employees are and what they are accomplishing. And that standard must apply equally. Can not only apply to the employees at the Franklin County Sheriff's Office while being ignored at the Huntland Police Department. Now, the records provided by the town of Huntland document Charles Keller's wages, recorded hours, paid leave, insurance, retirement contributions, and other employer-paid benefits. Mayor Dalton Steele told me that Charles Keller is classified as a full-time town of Huntland employee. Full-time. Now, I don't know if this has changed, but for me, growing up, full-time meant you put in your 40. Charles Keller is not treated simply as an occasional volunteer who helps out where he can. He is the police chief of the town of Huntland, and he receives the benefits associated with his municipal employment. At the same time, Charles Keller himself identified himself as the manager for the Woodall Grain Company, one of the very positions he cites as evidence throughout the course of his campaign, throughout the debate, and one of the sources of evidence showing that he can manage the sheriff's office better than the current regime. Based on the payroll entries that we received, which I have right here, Charles Keller's recorded police hours averaged substantially less than a traditional 40-hour work week. Depending on how the various leave and payroll categories are counted, the records reflect roughly around the mid-20s in regular recorded police hours per week. Not 40. And in fact, the math works out to just over 23 hours a week. The wage records show approximately $31,122.25 in hourly police wages during the period we examined, which was 1 year, at $25 an hour. Our calculation of the value of employer-funded insurance, retirement, paid leave, other benefits, comes out to approximately $27,416.27. in addition to those hourly wages. I may repeat that again. $31,122.25 in police hours worked, $27,416.27 in insurance, retirement, paid leave, and other benefits. Vacation time, sick time. Now, I want to be very clear about what these records do and do not establish. A payroll sheet does not document every telephone call. Doesn't document every on-call responsibility. Doesn't tell us every time somebody called the chief directly instead of calling dispatch. It does not prove that Charles Keller performed no work outside of the hours entered. And I'm not saying that the records prove that he never showed up. What the records prove is how the town of Huntland compensated and classified him, and how many hours were formally recorded. And that creates a question that I believe Charles Keller should answer.
We're basically a part-time department. We do very well just to answer the calls that we get, but we don't have the resources, the money, or the manpower to actually go out and work, search warrants and drug cases like that.
This is where it becomes difficult to reconcile. Charles Keller is classified as a full-time municipal employee. He receives the associated benefits. He also works in a private business, yet he describes the department that he leads as a part-time department where you are lucky to have one officer working when someone is on duty. How does a full-time chief lead a part-time department while simultaneously fulfilling substantial private sector management responsibilities? Who establishes his schedule? What duties satisfy a full-time classification? Who measures his performance? 23 hours a week. How many hours was he expected to be available? What arrangement did the town of Huntland approve concerning outside employment? Now, I got this information so late in the process to even have an opportunity to ask those questions directly to people within the city of Huntland, within the town of Huntland. And I will be following up with those questions. But I got them literally, I had to rush back here to get back to the studio prior to the debate yesterday. That's how late I got them. Over a week after I requested them. Submitted the same type of request to the sheriff's department, got the response with the information back in 30 minutes. But a candidate running on transparency and accountability should be able to provide the answers to those questions. Charles Keller concluded the debate by telling voters that leadership meant accountability to taxpayers, ensuring every dollar spent was spent wisely, fiscal responsibility, and a proven track record of management and accountability. He didn't ask you to elect him because he hopes to become accountable someday. He asked you to elect him because he said he already possesses a proven record of management and accountability. So examining that record is not an attack. It is exactly what he asked voters to do. After the break, we're going to examine the man Keller's campaign has used as an example of the good old boy system. I requested those records too. And what I found was very different from the impression that his campaign has attempted to create. It is the starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio Winchester.
Joe and Chewy is presented by Loco in Winchester. Right here in Winchester, Loco is doing things their own way. From locally roasted Loco coffee to a one-of-a-kind shop experience. It's a place that's built for the Franklin County community. So if you haven't stopped by yet, now's the time. Support local. Drink Loco coffee, fueling Franklin County mornings. Roasted right here in Franklin County. And don't forget to tune into the starting lineup, weekdays from 7 to 9.
It's time for a local news break from the 931 Go News Center.
A reminder for Franklin County families as online school registration continues. Franklin County High School will have registration kiosks available in the Counseling Center on July 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., and again from noon until 3 p.m. The kiosks are available to assist both new and returning students with the online registration process. Families can also use registration kiosks at the Franklin County Board of Education every Wednesday throughout the month of July from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. School officials encourage parents to complete registration before classes begin on August 7th. In statewide news, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation continues making progress on one of Tennessee's future state parks. Teams from the Bureau of Conservation's Planning, Natural Areas, and State Parks recently met in Ray and Hamilton counties to evaluate the site and begin planning for future visitors. Officials reviewed safety and emergency response needs, discussed ways to protect the area's natural and cultural resources, explored opportunities for educational programs, and identified possible locations for future facilities. The department says the collaborative effort will help preserve the property while creating meaningful outdoor recreation opportunities for generations to come. Tennessee also recently welcomed its newest addition to the state park system. Fort Southwest Point State Historic Park has officially become Tennessee's 66th state park. Located along Watts Bar Lake, the historic site features a reconstructed frontier fort, museum exhibits highlighting early Tennessee history, fishing access, and a paved shoreline walking trail. State officials say the new park offers visitors another opportunity to experience Tennessee's rich history while enjoying the outdoors. For details on these stories and more, visit 931go.com. Stay informed and stay connected to your community with ESPN Radio Winchester.
You're listening to the starting lineup, fueled by Loco Coffee, on ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT, Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio Winchester. Let me disconnect this. Chewy, you can kill that fourth line. Somebody jumped in the chat, and I'm glad that they brought this up. Somebody said he was only paid for the hours he worked. That is true. We're talking about Charles Keller here. That is true regarding his regular hourly wages. And I never complained, or I never claimed otherwise. But it completely misses the question. Charles Keller is classified by the town of Huntland as a full-time employee, and with that full-time classification comes benefits that a part-time employee ordinarily does not receive at the same level. Health insurance, retirement contributions, paid vacation, and sick leave. This sheet right here is a 2-week period in June, and the record shows that Charles Keller reported 24 hours of vacation leave and 32 hours of sick leave, a total of 56 paid leave hours with 0 regular police hours worked recorded during those 2 weeks. So the issue isn't that Huntland wrote him a 40-hour paycheck when he only worked 20. That's not what I said. The issue that I am bringing up is that the town classifies him as a full-time employee with full-time benefits. while his recorded working hours appear to me much closer to that of a part-time schedule. And when he does not work regular police hours, he has access to paid vacation and sick leave earned through that full-time classification. That's compensation. Benefits are a part of compensation. Paid leave is part of compensation. You cannot defend the arrangement by discussing only the hourly paycheck and pretending everything else is free. If he is a full-time employee for purposes of vacation, sick leave, health insurance, and retirement, why isn't he expected to maintain full-time working hours? And if the position does not require full-time working hours, why does it carry full-time benefits? I'm not saying that he got paid for hours that he did not work. I am saying that this sheet right here shows that he recorded 0 regular worked hours and 56 hours of paid leave during a 2-week period. There are 3 separate components here: hours physically worked, paid leave used, and employer-paid benefits. His defenders are only answering the first one because they're the two that fit that's the one that fits their narrative. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot call him part-time, call the department part-time, discuss how little time we have to catch the bad guys, but then he's full-time when it comes to calculating vacation and sick and health insurance. Is he full-time or is he not? Huntland says he is. The mayor said he was. The benefits say he is. His recorded working hours raise the question of whether or not the taxpayers are receiving full-time service in exchange for that full-time employment package. Charles Keller said that we must make sure officers are working and that leaders cannot be off doing other things while the business is running, and that's fine. I am applying his standard to his own record. As a Charles Keller supporter, you are now arguing that we should judge him only by the hours for which he drew regular wages. But Charles Keller's campaign has never limited its criticism of other employees that way. One of the most effective political tactics is to give voters a villain. Find an employee. Give people only part of the story. Portray that person as proof that the entire system is corrupt. This is water, by the way. The Charles Keller campaign has repeatedly criticized an employee of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office and used him as an example of the good old boy system of irresponsible spending. So I looked into him. Not because Tim Fuller told me everything was fine, not because Charles Keller told me everything was corrupt. I requested the records. I requested his job description. The employee is listed as Administrative Captain, Purchasing Officer, K-9. Those are actual responsibilities. Okay. You go further down the list. He's involved in procurement. He has responsibility connected to the department's shop and vehicle operations. And he has nearly 40 years of service in law enforcement in this county. And his capacity, this gentleman's capacity, has changed over time. I have looked into it. I have asked questions regarding it. He is approaching retirement. There are health issues involved. I do not need to put the man's private medical history on the radio. The relevant fact is that an experienced employee who can no longer perform every physical function that he performed earlier in his career has been assigned administrative duties that still need to be done, a less stressful on his health responsibility that still can be done. Now, can taxpayers still ask whether or not the position is structured properly? Absolutely. Can we examine those duties, costs, hours, everything associated with that job? Of course. No employee is immune to accountability because he has been through or been there for a long time. But context does matter. Ask teachers within the education system about things like tenure. There is a major difference between this man does nothing and is being protected by the good old boy club and this is a nearly 40-year law enforcement employee whose role has transitioned into purchasing, administration, and shop responsibilities as he approaches retirement. And this is where we reach the double standard. You have a candidate whose own municipal payroll records do not reflect a traditional 40-hour police work week, criticizing an employee who has devoted nearly 40 years of his life to law enforcement. A candidate whose own municipal payroll records do not reflect the traditional 40-hour police work week, criticizing an employee who has devoted nearly 40 years of his life to protecting Franklin County. Keller's campaign wants people outraged because one longtime employee may not currently perform the same physical duties or schedule that he did years ago. At the same time, Charles Keller receives full-time municipal classification and benefits while leading what he personally describes as a part-time police department and working in a private business. If hours equal corruption for one person, why don't they raise the question for the other? If taxpayer value is the standard that we are going to apply here, why is it the standard for one employee, but not for the candidate? If being present is a test for Sheriff Fuller's employees, why is it not a test for the Huntland police chief? And that is why I told you that earlier. There was a point when I considered voting for Charles Keller. I liked parts of the message, but a political message is a sales pitch. Eventually, you have to look under the hood. Charles Keller has been very effective as a salesman during this campaign. He has told people what many of them want to hear. The government is wasteful. The insiders protect one another. He is a businessman who will come in and he will make everything and everyone work better. But when I compared that promise to the records, I found a man where the standard was applied aggressively by him to everyone else except himself, except the person selling it. And I understand why some people might feel like they've been fleeced here. My precise conclusion on all of this is that Franklin County voters have been sold a smooth political promise that does not line up cleanly with a candidate's own employment record. That is not the same thing as alleging criminal conduct. I have not found evidence proving theft payroll fraud, any crime. What I have simply found is a contradiction. A candidate preaching presence whose records raise questions about his availability. A candidate preaching employee accountability while holding multiple substantial positions. A candidate preaching responsible spending while receiving full-time municipal benefits from a department that he describes himself as part-time, and a candidate and his entire campaign attacking a longtime county employee without providing voters full context of that employee's duties over 4 decades of service. Charles Keller has repeatedly said that we should run the sheriff's office like a business, and that's fine. But in a business, you perform due diligence before hiring someone to run the company. You examine the resume, you check the references, and you study previous performance. And you look at numbers. You make sure that the product matches the sales pitch. That is all that I have done here. Charles Keller asked voters to evaluate his proven record. That's what we did. We'll be back on the other side. It is a starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio Winchester.
This is ESPN Radio Winchester, where Franklin County comes to life. From local news and athletics to everything in between, we're proud to bring you the stories that matter right here at home. And it's all made possible by local businesses connecting with real people in our community every single day. When you support them, you support our local coverage. Over 75 years of Franklin County heritage. Want your business to be a part of it? Contact WCDT today. ESPN Radio Winchester. Franklin County plays here.
Got a project to tackle or a party to plan? Skip the stress and rent it instead at Reliable Rental in Winchester. From tools and heavy-duty machines to chairs, tables, and event essentials, they've got what you need to get the job done right. Whether it's work or a weekend celebration, Reliable Rental makes it easy. Stop by 2433 Deckard Boulevard in Winchester or check out everything they offer online at reliablerentalfc.com. Reliable Rental. When you need it, they've got it.
Looking to make a difference in Franklin County? The Franklin County Prevention Coalition works every day to build a safer, healthier community, free from substance misuse. Through education, outreach, and strong local partnerships, they empower parents, schools, and leaders to prevent addiction and support positive choices. From youth programs to community events, the coalition is here for you. Learn more or get involved today at fcpctn.org. Together, we prevent.
This project is funded under a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
The future of healthcare starts here. The Southern Tennessee Regional Health System, Winchester and Suwannee, are joining the High Point Health System with Ascension St. Thomas, a health network serving communities across the state. We're working together to expand access, improve clinical quality, and keep you close to home throughout your care journey. Your favorite providers aren't going anywhere. It's the same care you know and trust, now with a new name, High Point Health with Ascension St. Thomas. Learn more at highpointhealthsystem.com.
We had a plan, and then the microphones came on. You're listening to the starting lineup on ESPN Radio 1340-1069, WCDT Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340-1069 WCDT Winchester. I am Joe Abraham, and I appreciate you tuning in this morning. We'll wrap up this hour. I just want to say, I am not telling you that Tim Fuller is beyond criticism. He is not. And I am not telling you that every decision made by the Franklin County Sheriff's Department has been correct. It has not. And I am not telling you how to vote. I am telling you that no candidate gets to build a campaign around accountability and then cry bias when somebody examines his record. And anybody who knows about this station, I said it towards the beginning of the show, I have become that guy. And if this is too much for people, if you do not appreciate the work that is being put in by the people in this building to look into, to start conversations, to talk about tough things that are almost impossible to talk about, if you don't appreciate it, I am sorry. We're going to keep doing it until they take the station away from me, until I just can't anymore, until I literally can't pay my bills. It may upset you. I may not talk about it the way that you... One day I may be your worst enemy. The next day I may be talking about something that you absolutely love. We may be on the same side of things. Yesterday we were talking about the memorial, the Veterans Memorial. The mayor showed up. And once I get a chance to actually get into that thing, we're gonna friggin' fill that memorial. Not only are we gonna fill it, we're gonna fix it. And we're gonna fill it. And it'll be tremendous. Before voters make their decision, Charles Keller should have to answer, is he classified as a full-time employee by the town of Huntland? He is. He is. I have the information. Mayor told me so. Dalton Steele told me so. What specific hours and responsibilities satisfy that full-time classification? What's the expectation? How do you reconcile that position and his management responsibilities at Woodall Grain? Because he's getting paid to be a full-time employee with the police department down there in Huntland. And like I said a segment ago, or 2 segments ago, you're complaining about not having the manpower to get it done. You are the manpower. That's what they're paying you to do. And over the course of the last 12 months, an average of 23 hours worked a week. But what work is performed outside of those hours, maybe? That maybe isn't recorded on the payroll documents? Who supervises or evaluates you as the police chief for Huntland? I guess what frustrates me the most, though, the question I really want answered is, why is the Keller campaign applying one standard to a longtime Franklin County employee and another standard to Charles Keller? Hour number 2 on the other side. Early voting should mean you may vote early. Go vote. Shorter lines. Easier to get through them. I am a big proponent of early voting. Does not mean that you should vote uninformed. Before you mark that ballot, look beyond the promise, look at the record, dive deeper. We've still got a whole other hour of the show for you coming up. We will reset in hour number 2. I am not going through all of this again. But there is other things that we will discuss this morning. On the other side, we will talk about what we are actually hiring the sheriff to do. We will also recap last night's debate between 2 men that I have the utmost respect for in Stanley Bean and David Eldridge. And I really, really, really am glad that I did not have to step between the 2 of them. Somebody said to me when they found out about the debate, somebody said to me that knows them both very well, you going to have the cops there? There was one point last night, well, probably 2 points last night where I thought maybe that would have been a good idea. But I got to give them both credit. They tightened it up. At times, they looked like they were not happy with each other. They sounded like they were not happy with each other. And I get the frustration between the two of them. I respect the hell out of them both. Hour number 2, coming up on the other side. This is the starting lineup. You're listening to ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT Winchester.
When we hear drug-endangered children, we may picture extreme situations, but substance misuse can affect any child through unsafe environments, unsecured medications, or even impaired driving. Protecting children is everyone's responsibility. The Franklin County Prevention Coalition partners with schools and law enforcement to raise awareness and provide tools that keep kids safe. Because when we work together to protect our children, we are stronger together. Learn more at fcpctn.org/DEC. This project is funded under a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Kids, pets, muddy shoes. Life happens. That's why more homeowners are choosing beautiful, durable flooring from Discount Floors and More. From waterproof luxury vinyl plank to hardwood, tile, and carpet, their team will help you find the right floor for your home and your budget. With over 30 years of experience and professional installation, you can buy with confidence. Discount Floors and More on the bypass in Winchester and on the web at discountfloorsandmoretn.com.
Summer is here, and it's the perfect time to refresh your home with hot deals from Furniture Merchandise Outlet in Tullahoma. Whether you're upgrading your living room, bedroom, dining room, or finding the perfect mattress, FMO has stylish furniture at prices your wallet will love. Visit Furniture Merchandise Outlet today at 105 North Jackson Street in Tullahoma, or shop anytime at FMOTN.com. Make your house feel like summer all year long with FMO.
This last Shelby previously on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
You know what, Chris? Let me tell you something. Why don't you go catch your breath before commenting on somebody else's? And Hacksaw Tuscaloosa Jim Duggan. You shut up, because I could strike you out blindfolded, pitching underhand with both arms tied behind my back.
Okay, why don't we take a break? I'm pretty exhausted.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and on the SEC Network.
I'm Kristen Abraham, curator of Abraham Art Gallery right on the square in downtown Winchester. Looking for something unique? Every month brings a new featured artist, original art to inspire and share with the community. Come in, explore, and discover art that's ready to go home with you today. Whether you're redecorating, collecting, or just need something that sparks joy, this is your place. We're open Tuesday through Saturday. Find us on Instagram and Facebook. Visit abrahamgallery.com or stop by at 106 North High Street. You never know what you'll fall in love with.
Got a project to tackle or a party to plan? Skip the stress and rent it instead at Reliable Rental in Winchester. From tools and heavy-duty machines to chairs, tables, and event essentials, they've got what you need to get the job done right. Whether it's work or a weekend celebration, Reliable Rental makes it easy. Stop by 2433 Deckard Boulevard in Winchester or check out everything they offer online at ReliableRentalFC.com. Reliable Rental. When you need it, they've got it.
Looking to make a difference in Franklin County? The Franklin County Prevention Coalition works every day to build a safer, healthier community, free from substance misuse. Through education, outreach, and strong local partnerships, they empower parents, schools, and leaders to prevent addiction and support positive choices. From youth programs to community events, the coalition is here for you. Learn more or get involved today at fcpctn.org. Together, we prevent.
This project is funded under a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
For over 75 years, one thing has never changed in Winchester, Tennessee. Hall Furniture has been there through it all. 3 generations, decades of trust, and the commitment to quality, value, and service that still comes first today. As we celebrate over 75 years in business, we want to say thank you to our loyal customers, our community, and to everyone who has made Hall Furniture a Winchester tradition. Hall Furniture, Here's to another 75 years of helping you make a house feel like home.
You're tuned in to ESPN Radio Winchester, WCDT 1340 AM, W295 AV, 1069 FM. Broadcasting live from the ESPN Radio Winchester studio, it's the starting lineup. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Abraham and Chewy.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340, 1069 WCDT Winchester. I am Joe Abraham. It is an early voting Friday. And in hour number one, we examined Charles Keller's campaign statements alongside some employment and public payroll records, things like that. I want to pause and just for a moment, I came across, you guys think that I am bad. I came across something, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. There is an individual who has, hear me out on this, over the course of the last 3 years, made 409 Freedom of Information Act requests to the city of Manchester. They are asking a judge to intervene because over the last 3 years, that's an average of like 2.5 a week for 3 years. 409 in the span of 3 years. We did that for the Sheriff's Department and for the Huntland Police Department, the town of Huntland. Like I said, in hour number one, we explained what those documents showed. We compared them to some of what Charles Keller's own campaign platform has been in the past. We also explained what they do not prove. And I'm not going to spend another entire hour repeating the same information. I'm not going to turn hour number two into a personal attack. You heard the records. You heard the candidate's own words. So we're going to broaden out a little bit, because the election is not merely a referendum on Charles Keller. Franklin County is choosing somebody to operate a department with roughly 130 employees, a budget exceeding $10 million, responsibility for the jail, criminal investigations, patrol, school safety, drug enforcement, public records, personnel decisions, potentially life and death decisions each and every day. Life or death. You can't have life and death. Life or death. And each of the candidates, I believe, brings a unique way of attacking those challenges. I also want to stop. Let me stop before I move any further. Yeah, I can only move in one lane at a time. It's very hard for me to focus. So, I see the comments and I appreciate all of you getting into the comment section. There are going to be people from all sides of this having different opinions. I am not going to change a lot of your opinions with what I say today or with who you're going to vote for. I wanted you to be informed on it before maybe you went into the booth to choose whatever way you would like. We're all going to vote. We're all going to have preferences. That is all fine. But there's one man who I want to take just a quick second and talk about. And it is the third man running for sheriff in this election. The third wheel. So he needs a shirt. He needs a T-shirt that says the third wheel. And that is Troy Parsons Jr. Now, my personal opinion and what I've looked into and the conversations that I've had with Troy, there are some people that say he's not ready for prime time. And regardless of your feelings on Troy Parsons Jr., the interactions that I have had with that young man, I say young, he's like 2 years younger than me. He is the type of person that we need coming up. We need more of the, and Silas Earl, we did an interview with him. These younger guys who are getting, and ladies who are getting involved in the process. But Troy Parsons Jr. has been nothing but respectful, kind, appreciative. And while he may not be there yet, he's a great kid, great guy. I keep calling him a kid. Great guy. And I have so much respect for him for putting his name into this race, for sticking with it. He's taken the bullying and all the nastiness and all that type of stuff, and you know what? Has not let it change him one bit. He has kept the main thing the main thing. And while I may not vote for him, or you may not, that man deserves respect. All right. I just want to throw that out there. I've been very impressed by him as a human being, as a man who serves our county. All right, so taking a look at the three cases that have been made for sheriff, you've got Tim Fuller, who, basically steps in, my record. I've served as sheriff for 20 years. I managed the department. I've built the programs. I know the budgets. I have the relationships with other agencies. He's got institutional knowledge. He's got knowledge that the others don't have access to, experience with supervisors. He's got a staff. The criticism of that argument is, well, have 20 years made that department stable, or have they made it complacent? That's a big distinction. Have they made it stable, or have they made it complacent? That's the argument of both sides of that argument right there. Are relationships being mistaken for favoritism? Does he have good relationships with people across the county? Or does he show favoritism? Can it be the same can be true at the same time, can it? That's Chewy's favorite thing to say. He likes to say two things can be true at the same time. Are longtime employees being retained because they remain valuable, or because nobody wants to make a difficult change? Those are fair questions. Troy Parsons' argument is that he represents a new generation. He is asking voters to not dismiss him because of his age. He's old enough. Listen, I'll tell you, I've been there. The first radio station that I took over management of was in Nashville. I was 25 years old, and I was running a sports station. I was the sales manager of a sports station in Nashville. He's old enough. He wants to build on what works rather than tearing everything down. I like that. Talks about morale, outreach, recruitment, and bringing a different set of eyes into the office. Catches a lot of flack because he wants to have barbecues and cookouts with the community and with his officers and create that sense of family. I don't think that's something to criticize. But the criticism is out there. Is he ready to lead 130 people? Has he gotten a chance to look at the budget yet? And does he understand what he's looking at? Here's the thing. I can tell you this much. Knowing how complex these budgets are, there are people within the department that deal with it on a weekly basis that still don't understand how that budget necessarily works. That's why we have people who are in charge of the budget who make that thing run. And I will also say this. Saw this pop up the other day. Again, off track here. Andrea Smith is retiring from her position as the Franklin County Finance Director on October 31st. The Finance Committee recently approved promoting Deputy Director Jenny Phillips to take over the helm. That is a headline from the Herald Chronicle. Now, I need to set up an interview with Jenny. We need to have her come in. She has invited me to come up there and sit down and look at the budgets and how things work and how all that stuff is. I will say this. That is a tremendous decision. She is absolutely spectacular. There are gems, like hidden gems, diamonds in the rough around this community, just placed in strategic positions. She's one of those. And she's not even like a hidden one. Anybody who's been to a school board meeting or any one of these types of things, Jenny Phillips is so freaking good. It is unbelievable. If you know her, if you know of her work, there are many a time where I am seeing her sit in these meetings, whether it be commissioner meetings, school board meetings, whatever kind of meetings she's sitting in, and they're asking her questions. And she is on it. She knows it. And if she doesn't pretend to know it. So I'll figure that out and I'll have it for you the next time around. But it's very rare. She knows what's going on better than most of the people in these seats. She sees the pieces where they're sitting on the board from a financial standpoint and how they affect the long-term health of this community. She is a tremendous asset, and that could not be a better choice. So going back to Troy Parsons Jr., I would recommend, Troy, call up Jenny Phillips. Call up Jenny Phillips and do what I need to do. Have her walk you through what you maybe don't understand or where things lie within that budget. Because there are people within the department who struggle with that as well. Are your plans fully developed, Troy? These are good ideas, but can we turn them into executable policy? Those are also fair questions for him. And then there's Charles Keller, whose case has been, he has law enforcement experience, private sector experience, management experience, and he's going to run it like a business. And that's a fairly easy message to sell. That's what we all like to hear, especially in a red state, a red county like Franklin County. Accountability, responsible spending, better supervision, less waste. The question created by the public records today is whether or not Keller has consistently applied those standards in the government positions he already holds. But that does not automatically answer the election. That does not mean that voters should examine or should not continue to examine him and his resume beyond the campaign slogans. I forget yard signs for just a moment. Forget who your cousin works for. Forget which Facebook page likes which candidate. Imagine if you were a private company and you're hiring a chief executive to manage 130 employees and more than $10 million. What would you ask? We'll do that on the other side. It is the starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester.
Got a project to tackle or a party to plan? Skip the stress and rent it instead at Reliable Rental in Winchester. From tools and heavy-duty machines to chairs, tables, and event essentials, they've got what you need to get the job done right. Whether it's work or a weekend celebration, Reliable Rental makes it easy. Stop by 2433 Deckard Boulevard in Winchester or check out everything they offer online at reliablerentalfc.com. Reliable Rental. When you need it, they've got
It is the starting lineup. So the World Cup is going on right now in America, which means we have visitors from all corners of the world. They spend the last couple of weeks thinking, you know what? Americans aren't that bad. Nothing says welcome to America like a Belgian soccer fan waking up at 7:30 to some guy named Randy blowing up mortars in the backyard and a sleeveless Dale Earnhardt shirt. Welcome to America!
From the 931 GO Weather Center, it's time for an ESPN Radio Winchester weather update, presented by Bennett's Pharmacy.
Starting off our morning with some fog at around 8 a.m. Otherwise, mostly sunny with a high of 88 degrees with our heat index values jumping up to 97 degrees today. We do have some showers and thunderstorms headed your way this afternoon with the chance of precipitation being 70%. So stay cool and dry while you stay tuned to ESPN Radio Winchester.
At Bennett's Pharmacy in Winchester, we're more than a pharmacy. We're your partner in health. Conveniently located at 1201 Dinah Shore Boulevard, we're here to serve you with fast, friendly, and personalized service. Need prescriptions filled? Looking for over-the-counter products? We've got you covered. Plus, enjoy local delivery and expert advice from our caring team. Call us today at 931-967-2777 or stop by Bennett's Pharmacy at 1201 Dinah Shore Boulevard today.
You're listening to the starting lineup, fueled by Loco Coffee, on ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT, Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT Winchester. I am Joe Abraham. I appreciate you tuning in this morning. All right, so you're going in to vote for whatever position that you're going to vote for, right? All the different positions. But specifically, one of the biggest ones here locally, obviously, that we've been talking about is the position of sheriff. And now you're managing 130 employees, more than $10 million. If you are the hiring manager, which we all are as of today, starting today, if you are a registered voter in the county, congratulations. You are now a hiring manager. So I would encourage you to ask some questions to yourself. Number one, can this person manage a complicated budget? Can this person retain experienced employees while removing people who are not performing? Can this person make the unpopular decision without making it personal? Can this person work with county commissioners even when they disagree? And in fact, can they work with the public, individuals from the public, and have respect for them even when they disagree? Or in my case, the media. Does this person understand the jail? Troy Parsons Jr. understands the jail than these other two candidates do, hands down. Does he understand patrol? Does he understand investigations? Can this person recruit and train the next generation? Can he withstand the public criticism that comes along inevitably with every decision that you make, literally, without treating every difficult question like an attack? Does he live by the same accountability standard that he is going to apply to everyone else? Because you know what kills a leadership faster than anything? A leadership, somebody in the leadership position. I don't know if you guys heard this growing up. I did. And I can tell you there was an age that I got to where it stopped working. It stopped meaning one thing, and it meant totally something else. Okay? Do what I say, not what I do. Anybody else's father ever tell them that? Do what I say, not what I do. But Dad, you do this. But Ma, yeah, do what I say, not what I do. And when you get to become a teenager and you have the realization that you are like a human being as well and you feel like you deserve some respect, it's like, whoa, wait. The standard applies to you, but not to me. If you're in a chat and your dad ever said, do what I say, not what I do, raise your hand. So does he live by the same accountability standard that he applies to everyone else? And then from a change standpoint, I think that one thing that a lot of people have been talking about, regardless of whether or not they want to vote for Troy Parsons Jr. or Charles Keller, is change. They want change. 20 years is long enough. I've heard that more times than I can count. 20 years is long enough. It's time for somebody else. Give somebody else a chance. Change is not automatically progress. Just like experience is not automatically effectiveness. Just like loyalty is not automatically corruption. Just like a new idea is not automatically a workable idea. And this is where, as voters, we have to go beyond the sales pitch. If we elect Fuller, we are choosing continuity. We are choosing an established operation. If you elect Parsons, we are choosing a younger leader who says that he will preserve what works and gradually bring in some new ideas. And if you elect Keller, you're choosing a more aggressive business-style overhaul, but you also have to decide whether or not the public records support the management things that he has sold, the platform that he has sold. And each of them should be questioned in that regard. Can you deliver on your campaign promises? Certainly. I bring that one up because that's the one that we talked about today. The question that I would put to listeners is, what is the single most important quality that you have for the next sheriff? Is it experience, accountability, accessibility, new ideas, the attack on drug enforcement, fiscal management, employee morale? Feel free to drop it in the chat. FMO Facebook feed. Baby. Send us your answer. Not the candidate's name, the quality. I just want to know, what is the most important thing to you in this election? Because when you begin with the quality rather than the personality, you might look at the race differently. When you start naming the sheriffs, candidates, when you start naming names, it immediately becomes personal. It's intensely personal. Each of these guys has relationships across the county. But the job is bigger than each of these guys as individuals. The job is bigger than them as individuals. So name the qualities that are important to you. And my guess is, the likelihood is, the guy that you've chosen will match up with those qualities. But for a second, name the qualities. All right. I like the two men that we're going to talk about on the other side a lot. Running for District 1, County Commissioner Seat A, David Eldridge and Stanley Bean. I respect both of these men tremendously. And if you listened last night, I hope that you were able to come away with their two very different ways of determining whether or not the government is working, their opinions on the school board, and not the school board, the school district, and the differences that they have. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities in some of their policies. And then there are others that they could not be more vastly different on. If you did not get a chance, it is in our Facebook feed. Go over to facebook.com/ESPN Radio or ESPN Winchester, and you can pull it up. When we come back, we will recap it a little bit. We'll talk about what we saw. There was a point in time I thought I was going to have to step between the two men, but thankfully, that didn't happen. So much respect for these guys, and I like them both. We'll be back on the other side to talk about the County Commissioner District 1 Seat A debate. It is a starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio 1340, 1069 WCDT Winchester.
Summer is here, and it's the perfect time to refresh your home with hot deals from Furniture Merchandise Outlet in Tullahoma. Whether you're upgrading your living room, bedroom, dining room, or finding the perfect mattress, FMO has stylish furniture at prices your wallet will love. Visit Furniture Merchandise Outlet today at 105 North Jackson Street in Tullahoma, or shop anytime at FMOTN.com. Make your house feel like summer all year long with FMO.
Every child deserves a safe place to grow. When substance misuse enters a home, children can face neglect and lasting trauma. The Drug Endangered Children's Initiative in Franklin County brings together schools, first responders, and community partners to identify risks early and protect our most vulnerable. It's not about blame, it's about protection. And when we stand up for our children, we are stronger together. Learn more at fcpctn.org/DEC. This project is funded under a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
It's time for a local news break from the 931 GO News Center.
A reminder for Franklin County families as online school registration continues. Franklin County High School will have registration kiosks available in the Counseling Center on July 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., and again from noon until 3 p.m. The kiosks are available to assist both new and returning students with the online registration process. Families can also use registration kiosks at the Franklin County Board of Education every Wednesday throughout the month of July from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. School officials encourage parents to complete registration before classes begin on August 7th. In statewide news, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation continues making progress on one of Tennessee's future state parks. Teams from the Bureau of Conservation's Planning, Natural Areas, and State Parks recently met in Ray and Hamilton counties to evaluate the site and begin planning for future visitors. Officials reviewed safety and emergency response needs, discussed ways to protect the area's natural and cultural resources, explored opportunities for educational programs, and identified possible locations for future facilities. The department says the collaborative effort will help preserve the property while creating meaningful outdoor recreation opportunities for generations to come. Tennessee also recently welcomed its newest addition to the state park system. Fort Southwest Point State Historic Park has officially become Tennessee's 66th state park. Located along Watts Bar Lake, the historic site features a reconstructed frontier fort, museum exhibits highlighting early Tennessee history, fishing access, and a paved shoreline walking trail. State officials say the new park offers visitors another opportunity to experience Tennessee's rich history while enjoying the outdoors. For details on these stories and more, visit 931go.com. Stay informed and stay connected to your community with ESPN Radio Winchester.
When it comes to caring for your loved ones, choose a name you can trust. Inhabit Home Health in Winchester, located at 2068 Cowan Highway. We're here to provide compassionate professional care right in the comfort of your own home. From skilled nursing to therapy services, our team is dedicated to helping you or your loved ones achieve the best quality of life. Call Inhabit Home Health today at 931-967-0633 to learn more about our personalized care plans.
We had a plan, and then the microphones came on. You're listening to the starting lineup on ESPN Radio 1340 1069, WCDT Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester. Joe Abraham in studio. So yesterday we had David Eldridge and Stanley Bean running for County Commissioner, District 1, Seat A, in studio to debate one another. This was different. This was a little bit different from the sheriff's debate. I would have assumed the sheriff's debate would have been the one that was like more combative rather than these two guys. There were a couple of moments where it got a little bit testy, which I like. I'm all for it. You should be passionate. These two men are very passionate about the community. So while I think that it can be a red flag in certain situations, that you don't want somebody who's like seeking it out, or it's always a thing, or it's this is a common thing. There's a pattern to it. You don't want that. These two guys, there are a couple of things that they disagree on fundamentally that cause them to get real frustrated with one another. Two older gentlemen, experienced men who have been around Franklin County government and education much longer than I've even been alive. And I've said this over and over again. I like both of them. I think that they're both great assets to the community. I think that they care about this county. And both of them will take this either one of them will take this responsibility seriously. We got two great guys to vote for. But they do not think the same way. They do not think the same way. And when I say that they've been around a long time, I think it was David who mentioned he used to deliver milk to people's doorstep. Like actually go around. He probably had, like Stanley was probably the paper boy. That's probably where the feud all started. Stanley's riding up and down the street, throwing the newspaper at the people's front doors, hitting David in the head. David's trying to put the milk down. That's probably where this, got started between the two of them. I'm joking. My point is that they've been around. They've seen the changes in this community. And when you talk about people representing responsible growth, but also trying to ensure that Franklin County stays the way that we all know and love for it to be, the way that we want it to be, two great options. And the biggest difference that I saw and heard from them was not necessarily what they want, right? They both want good schools. They want good community government. They want responsible government, responsible spending. They understand that money is tight. It always is. The difference is really, from what I saw, is how they kind of judge whether or not something is or can be successful. And Stanley Bean appears... Now, again, I encourage you to go back and watch it for yourself and make your own conclusions on these things. I just talk about it. Stanley appears to approach an issue from an educational or an administrative perspective. His instinct is like, what's the goal? How are we measuring it? What does the data show? What educational outcome are we attempting to produce? Right? He comes from that education background. Are we hitting our marks? Did the decision improve, if it's the schools? Did it improve attendance? Did it improve test performance? Did it improve staffing, student opportunities? He wants something he can measure, quantify. And he seems more comfortable with trying something and establishing the measurements beforehand and then adjusting it based on the result. Like, hey, here's a plan. Here's the best plan we could come up with going into this thing. We're going to try this. And we know along the way we're going to have to make adjustments to make it work. But we want this thing to happen. We want this to be what it looks like. And we think that we have a plan in place that can get us there. And then Stanley also served as the Franklin County's director of schools after his long time in education. That explains how he kind of naturally approaches those things, right? That approach has strengths. You take a test, you measure the result. And it recognizes that the government cannot always know the result before it acts on something. Sometimes you implement a program and you collect the information, you make the adjustments. It also recognizes that certain things like the school district, they're not just line items, right? They exist to educate children. But there's also a potential weakness. Again, educational leaders can become focused on educational goals and underestimate the county's financial limits. I'm not saying that that's the case with Stanley. A program may be valuable and measurable and still unaffordable. And Stanley has shown to me in the past that he recognizes that. But that can be the argument against it. David comes at things from, I believe it's where he starts is a different place. Both heading in the same direction, right? They both want to go in the same direction. His instinct is, what will this cost? What problem will it solve? What happens if it fails? And what kind of obligation are we creating 5 years from now? Very early on yesterday, he mentioned talking about something that has a one-time cost up front versus something that you sign up for, and it's the gift that keeps on giving, he said. So do we know enough about it before we commit taxpayer money to it? He seems less willing to start something and then measure whether or not it worked. He wants to have greater confidence before the county takes a step. That has strengths. County government needs people who challenge assumptions. It needs someone willing to look at the budget and say, well, we cannot continue doing everything simply because we have always done it. But that approach also carries risk because government rarely gets perfect certainty. You can debate numbers and outcomes and things like that, and if you refuse to move forward or provide a solution until every question is answered, sometimes you never move. A school district or a department, sheriff's department, maybe they can't wait 3 years for perfect financial certainty. Well, trying to figure it out on the fly. You got students in the classroom, right? David clearly views the school budget as an enormously important, as does Stanley, because of the size. But he is also more critical of how that money has been managed in the past and how the system has reached its current financial condition. When he looks at it, he sees it differently than Stanley. Stanley looks at it and sees that criticism. There's more complexity when Stanley looks at it than maybe the numbers. He understands that the educational needs and the legal funding requirements and the staffing requirements and the decisions, those things accumulate over time. And so does David. The budget problems that we face today cannot automatically be placed entirely on Stanley Bean's feet. And they can't entirely be placed at the feet of David Eldridge. They've been involved in it for a long time, but it's not entirely their fault, some of the challenges that we face, right? They do the best with what they've got. There's other commissioners on boards. There's an entire school board that you've got to answer to. And Stanley left the director of schools position years ago. Some of the most significant budget growth occurred after his departure. That does not mean that his decisions did not have long-term effects. It just means that causation is more complicated than Stanley ran the schools. Therefore, every current budget problem belongs to Stanley. This is not the same thing. That's why I find this so interesting. Because Stanley asks, how will we measure whether or not it works? And David asks, how do we know it will work before we pay for it? I don't think that one is automatically smarter than the other. Good government probably needs a little bit of both. That's a situation where those two guys, there's a reason why they live in the same district and why we can only get one of them at a time, why they can't seem to work together. Because we'd be unstoppable. Anyway, think about your own personality when looking at this, when you face a problem. Are you the type of person that says, let's try something and then measure it and adjust and all that type of stuff? Or are you the type of person that says, before we start, show me all the details, show me the plan, show me the cost, show it to me, and then the likely result? What are we looking at here? Realistically, what's the worst case scenario? Oftentimes, that's the one that'll happen. And that may tell you about which candidate you prefer. Beneath all of that is an older disagreement. It's like different styles, are one thing, but there's an older disagreement that's there. I joked about it being, when one was delivering milk and the other was probably delivering a paper. But it does, there's a consistent theme that comes up that goes back to like the conversation around the two middle schools and all that. I'm not going to really get into that. But there was a point in time where the two guys kind of diverged. You had one that believed in having the two middle schools and staying the two middle schools, and the other that believed in combining two different versions of what the school system could have become. David favored combining and consolidating the two school operations, and Stanley supported maintaining the separate structure. And it wasn't an argument simply about buildings or dollars. There was efficiency connected to it, but it was a lot about identity, community identity as well. And it does cost more to run more facilities. That's the point that I keep hearing David make over and over and over again. And where we are currently at from the school budget perspective, are we in a situation over the next couple of years where we're going to have to make some tough decisions? I did a whole show on it one day where we talked about basically two options are A, close a school, or B, raise taxes. Pick one. Based off of what the information that that David provided. David's question to Stanley yesterday was basically that question right there. Which one do you choose? We've lost 1,200 students, which equates to $9 million a year over the last 15 years. Are you going to, if it comes to this, are you going to vote to raise taxes, or are you going to vote to close a school? Because the tax raise is going to have to be insane. It's like 25%. Something stupid. Or is there an alternative solution to the problem? What do we need to do to solve the problem before that happens? Are we too far gone? It was a very interesting conversation. Some questions got answered. Some did not. Some did not. Years ago, Franklin County avoided that difficult decision. Are we now paying the price for that decision? David seems to believe that the current budget pressure did not suddenly appear. He believes that it grew from earlier decisions made to not consolidate and reorganize long-term operating costs. And he appears to hold Stanley very much responsible for helping preserve that structure. Stanley's side, more than just the spreadsheets and the dollars and the combining the facilities, it looks efficient from a distance, but it can affect other things. I mean, talk about transportation, school culture, student support, class size, extracurricular opportunities. And oh, by the way, the connection between the schools and the community that they serve, right? The schools are a part of our community. That's like where pride stems from. His argument also appears to be that county funding decisions contributed to the current pressure, particularly that earlier decisions by David involving the school system's maintenance of effort level are part of the reason why the school system is in the tight spot it's in. In plain English, maintenance of effort is the local school funding floor that generally prevents local government from reducing its own school contribution and replacing it with, like, state funding, additional state funding. Stanley's argument appears to be that you cannot repeatedly squeeze a local contribution and then act surprised when the school system has limited flexibility later on. I don't think that either of these men is completely right or completely wrong. Campaigns want a villain. Personally, I don't see one in this race. We'll be back on the other side to wrap this one up. It is the starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester.
This is ESPN Radio Winchester, where Franklin County comes to life. From local news and athletics to everything in between, we're proud to bring you the stories that matter right here at home. And it's all made possible by local businesses connecting with real people in our community every single day. When you support them, you support our local coverage. Over 75 years of Franklin County heritage. Want your business to be a part of it? Contact WCDT today. ESPN Radio Winchester. Franklin County plays here.
Why choose More Courtney Funeral Home? Well, they're a fifth-generation funeral home taking care of the people of Franklin County since 1905. They're committed to serving you, dedicated to providing personalized, professional, and compassionate service to help lighten your burden and help you out during these difficult times. More Courtney Funeral Home, 300 First Avenue Northwest in Winchester, 967-2222. More Courtney Funeral Home.
Looking to make a difference in Franklin County? The Franklin County Prevention Coalition works every day to build a safer, healthier community, free from substance misuse. Through education, outreach, and strong local partnerships, they empower parents, schools, and leaders to prevent addiction and support positive choices. From youth programs to community events, the coalition is here for you. Learn more or get involved today at fcpctn.org. Together, we prevent.
This project is funded under a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Looking for a reliable car at an affordable price? Stop by Money Down Motors here in Decker. We specialize in quality pre-owned vehicles with low down payments and flexible financing options. No matter your credit history, drive away today with a car you'll love and a payment plan that works for you. Visit us at 1945 Deckard Boulevard or call 931-962-3404 for more info. At Money Down Motors, LLC, your ride is waiting.
If your life depended on the mission succeeding, what would you care about? Would you care about the demographics of the crew? The moon does not care about your politics, doesn't care about your hashtags. It does not care about where you lie on social media arguments. It doesn't care whether you're male or female or black or white or rich or poor or conservative or liberal or religious or atheist or anything else, because reality does not negotiate. It just is. You can disagree with the facts, but they don't care about your feelings. It is a starting lineup. Thank you for tuning in. This is ESPN Radio Winchester.
Joe had to mix up some more pre-workout, but he's ready to go another round. Back to the starting lineup. This is ESPN Radio Winchester.
Back here on the starting lineup, ESPN Radio 1340 1069 WCDT Winchester. Just a few words of wisdom for you today. Be careful where the lettuce that you eat comes from. Michigan and Ohio, along with West Virginia and Kentucky, are giving people diarrhea. Okay? And I just want you to be very careful. My wife, God love her, makes sure that I don't just waste away and die. She's always making sure that I have food and nourishment, and because I'll just sit in the office and not eat, not nothing. I'm pretty sure she's mad at me, though, because the other day she brought me a salad. Is she trying to kill me? Just saying. To wrap things up this morning, we have covered a lot. Public records requests involving the sheriff's race, campaign promises, leadership, accountability. We talked about the District 1 commissioner debate, school budgets, middle school decisions that still echo years later. Golly. Here's what I want you to understand as we close up today. I do not believe that my job is to walk into the voting booth with you and move your hand from one candidate to the other towards, the candidate that I want to win's name. I feel like my job is to make sure that you do not enter the booth knowing only what somebody's campaign wanted you to know. I do also want to throw out there that I appreciate people who have gotten involved in the conversation, and I appreciate them staying respectful if they have been able to. I know that there are a lot of emotions and that they run high, but people like Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams is in the chat. He's been in the chat. I've seen his name pop up multiple times. I can kind of, from across the room, I can kind of see. I can't read the full comments and things like that, but I know that he has been involved. He's messaged me privately. He said some things, and I'm not putting him on blast. I am saying to him, Brandon and I disagree on some things. There are some things that we agree on. I would say we agree on where we're trying to go. as a community. We both want what's best for the community. We have different ideas maybe as how to get there. I respect Brandon. I appreciate Brandon getting involved. And just like I do with you, everybody who's gotten involved, everybody who's watched the video, everybody who's talking about it. The conversation is the point. If we can catalyze a conversation and interest and get you to vote, that is the point. Job done. I don't care who you vote for. Go vote. I told you earlier there was a point where I thought I might vote for Charles Keller because I liked the message. Regardless of what candidate, there are a lot of people who, along the way of this process, they have wavered back and forth, and, well, maybe this guy, maybe that guy, well, maybe this guy over here. And they're asking questions. I have requested the records. I have dug deeper into this than an average person, a normal human being would when it comes to an election process. That's my job. I compared what was said to what I was able to access through some documentation. That information has affected my personal opinion. Again, whether or not that's bias, but that is what we are supposed to do when new information becomes available, right? You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to not know. If you don't know, if you're not certain, wait. You got till August 6th. Refusing to change your mind, in fact, regardless of evidence, that's not loyalty. That is surrendering your judgment to a team. Don't vote because somebody has the most signs or somebody's supporters are the loudest online. Don't vote because a candidate told you that everyone questioning them is biased. Just listen, read, compare. Ask whether or not the records match the promise, whether or not plans have details, whether or not the candidate has experience. You are permitted to vote early before Election Day. Doesn't mean you have to. Continue doing your homework. If you are not done with your homework, keep going. This has been an early voting Friday on the starting lineup. I am Joe Abraham. Remember, your vote belongs to you. Make sure your decision does as well. This is ESPN Radio 1340, 1069, WCDT Winchester.
This is Daryl from Columbus, previously from the Paul Feinbaum Show. I like your show. I've been watching you for years. I like you, but I don't like you. I don't know you like Tennessee or Alabama. I don't know which one you like, but I know you don't like the Auburn Tigers, man.
Willie, thank you. I'm a little bit confused by liking me and not liking me, but you laid out your case very well.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and on the SEC Network.
It's time for a community calendar update, presented by Minuteman Press in Tullahoma.
From community events to hometown happenings, it's time to catch up on what's happening around Franklin County. If you're looking for a way to make a difference this weekend, the United Way of Franklin County invites everyone to take part in its annual Stuff the Bus Day of Action. On Saturday, July 18th, volunteers will be collecting school supplies from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. at the Winchester Walmart. A few notebooks, pencils, or backpacks may seem small, but together they help local students start the school year with confidence and the tools they need to succeed. It's one of those community efforts that truly shows what Franklin County is all about. Families can also start planning ahead for a fun and active summer experience. Winchester Parks and Recreation is hosting its Learn to Try Kids Triathlon Camp July 20th through the 23rd at the Winchester Swimplex and City Park. Open to children ages 5 to 13, campers will build confidence while learning swimming, biking, and running skills, all leading up to the Kids Triathlon on July 25th. It's a great opportunity for young athletes to stay active, make new friends, and challenge themselves in a supportive environment. And if your weekend plans include a little live music while you kick back and relax, don't miss Allison McCormick performing live Saturday evening from 6 until 8 p.m. at Company Distilling in Lynchburg. It's the perfect chance to enjoy a summer evening with live entertainment just a short drive from home. In a small area like Franklin County, staying connected matters. So stay connected to your community with 931-GO and ESPN Radio Winchester.
Do you need high-quality printing services that help your business stand out? Minuteman Press in Tullahoma has you covered. Whether you need business cards, flyers, banners, signs, or custom apparel, we do it all. We specialize in posters, brochures, window graphics, books, and promotional products to make your brand shine. Plus, we offer a free local delivery to make things even easier for you. For all your printing needs, call